Hi, my name is Terence Abrams, and I'm just going to share my journey on how God has radically delivered me from crystal meth, or better known as stick, where I'm from, after 15 years of addiction. My story starts, in a colored community in Paarl, in Cape, in the Western Cape, and my father had left us when I was 5 years old. But my experience with him from that time onwards was that he would break into our house on a Sunday morning or whatever in the middle of the night, beat up my mother very, very badly. And I was always witness to how he abused her. And he would either then load me in the car and I would drive with him to wherever he would go to play dominoes or drink or whatever. And at the time, I actually enjoyed driving with him and being with him because he's my dad, Even after what I witnessed, I didn't at the time fully understand. And the very next guy that became like my father figure, that genuinely was there for me and that I could look up to and all these things, this is the same guy that went on to sexually abuse me. And that set my life in a completely different path. And I rebelled in my own way, not thinking that I was rebellious, but I was. And my mother and I used to have hectic fights. She was really, really angry and really, really bitter at my dad. I mean, we are 6 kids. My father abandoned us without anybody working at home. In 1998 is when I matriculated. At the matric results, we have this tradition where we go to Pick n Pay to go and wait for the first newspaper to come out to check if your name is in the newspaper and all the whole thing. And a guy spiked my drink with half a ecstasy. And all of a sudden, this feeling hit me. And it's exactly where ecstasy gets its name. It was pure ecstasy. It was just, I just loved everybody. This hole in my soul was filled. In that moment right there, I had found what I've been searching for my whole life. And that is where my love affair with drugs started. I loved drugs more than anything else. More than anything. It was my first priority, my second priority, my third, my fourth. There was no other priority. My mother would send me to go and pay the bond cash because that's how she did it at the time. And I would go and I would buy ecstasy. I didn't really want to do crystal meth, but then I started with it. And I went from smoking socially once a month to smoking every second weekend. And then from smoking every weekend. And then it just progressed. It started like a spiral where it's still wide on top and you can manage everything. And all of a sudden you're just right down in a pit. And I was a full-blown addict. I was smoking non-stop every day at work, lunchtimes. I was completely hooked. My friends who had started smoking way before me were now scared to smoke with me. I would go for 2 weeks without sleep, and I would use my younger sister's foundation to just take out these dark circles under my eyes. I lost so much weight. I weighed at one point 57 kilos. I would stay away from home weeks on end. And what breaks my heart now, thinking back, is that on a random night, 2 weeks later, I decided to go home. I would find my mother standing, and I'm talking about 3 o'clock in the morning. I would find her standing over, we got these half doors where the top is half from the bottom one. I would find her standing 3 o'clock in the morning waiting for me. And I would always think, how did she know I'm coming home tonight, But it was never just that night. She would stand there every night that I wasn't there. So, and I'm getting emotional about it, but that's how it was. She waited for me every night, despite what I put her through. Sure. I was working at Telkom at the time, and I actually, in 2006, I was now 7 years into my addiction. I lost my job. They fired me. And I manipulated the situation. I said, I know there's a policy where, I didn't say this, but I knew in the back of my mind, if I admit to having a problem, they have to give me a chance. They have to give me a chance to clean up my life and then put me back on probation. And in that way, I would save my job. When I cleaned up in 2006, at some point, I kind of wanted to be clean. And I did, and I stayed clean for almost 5 years. But I always knew that I wasn't done. I always knew in my mind that I could handle drugs. I can do drugs and be a normal, active person in society, which is a whole lot of nonsense. I couldn't. And I stayed clean for about 4 and some odd years. I got a promotion at Telkom. They sent me up to Johannesburg as an ops manager and as a center manager there. And I now had people reporting to me, and life was just good. I got a bursary from Telkom to go and study my MBA. I was accepted at Wits Business School. They paid my tuition fees for the year into my account that I had to pay Wits. I paid the deposit. A month later, I'd relapsed on rocks. And for that month, I smoked out 60,000 Rand on crack cocaine. My relapse was 10 times worse than my initial addiction, 10 times worse than all the years of my addiction combined. I lost everything. Cars, house, job. Telkom finally completely fired me. I lost everything. I ended up living in Westbury. I started selling lollies. I supplied all the dealers in Joburg with lollies. And lollies is a little globe that meth or crystal or tick addicts use to smoke the tick out of. I used to buy Pyrex glass and blow the stuff. And that is how I maintained my habit. I ended up living on the streets of Eldorado Park. There was 2 guys in Eldorado Park. They are known criminals, known robbers and murderers in Eldorado Park. They would rob me often because I would always either have money or drugs on me. I always had money or drugs because I supplied the dealers. And they would rob me, and the one would take out a knife to stab me, and then the other one would stop him and say, listen, don't kill him, just hurt him. And 2 weeks later or whatever, they would rob me again. And then the one who covered me the previous time, he would take out a knife to stab me. And then the other one would say, listen, don't kill him, just hurt him. And there's countless stories like that I can tell you, where people would shoot at me or have a gun in my face. Countless amounts of time. I can't even tell you how many times. My elder sister, who used to be my go-to person, I phoned her one Christmas and I said, can I come and have lunch with you guys? And she said, no, you're not welcome at my house anymore. So, and that shook my whole life. And I knew I was heading towards either death. No, I was heading towards death. Nothing else. And then I finally decided, okay, I'm gonna go get my car and I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna try this thing. And all I wanted to do, my kids were staying in Cape Town with my mom at the time, and I just had this real desire to be there for Father's Day. My car was standing in Edenville at mechanic's house, and I got a lift with this guy that I've been smoking with the whole week. We were smoking tick. And we went through to Edenville, got to my car, and my wheels were flat. Took my wheels off, went to the garage, and I'm busy pumping up the wheels. And a cop car pulls in, but I think nothing of it. I'm just here pumping my wheels. And I come back, and they're now checking out the car. And I'm speaking to this officer, and he says, this car is positively stolen. And I'm like, I look at the guy that's giving me a lift, and I'm like, dude, like, and he's so scared, he stole his girlfriend's car. And I ended up in Boksburg prison for possession of a stolen motor vehicle. And this guy that I was with could have just said he gave me a lift. But he said I was involved with it because he didn't want to be there alone. I spent almost 4 months in Boksburg prison because of this. I've been in and out of Sun City or Joburg Central. I've been there a few times. But here I'm in jail because of getting a lift. And one night I was sleeping and I felt like a just scuffle at my feet. But now the mattresses are quite tight next to each other. And when I opened my eyes, I saw 3 guys that was busy raping another guy right opposite me. And yeah, I can't explain the trauma. I can't explain what I experienced in that moment. What that moment took me right back to being 11 years old. That moment took me right back to my molestation or just the numbing, paralyzed, not knowing what the hell is going on trauma. And I just completely lost it. I cried and prayed myself to sleep that night. And I made a deal with God. I said, if you get me through tonight, I still negotiated with God. I said, if you get me through tonight, I will stop with the illegal stuff. Just get me through tonight. I got out of jail and I was still using on and off, still living here and there. And eventually my sister said, listen, you can come for a Sunday lunch. And I was, yes, let me do this. And I went for Sunday lunch and she phoned Christo and he said, listen, Guy, I need a set built. I did a lot of theatre work with Christo. They taught me how to be a stage manager. I'm good with woodwork. I started building their sets for theatre. And he said, I need a set for a one-woman show that I'm doing in Grahamstown. My set is stuck in Joburg. Can you help me? I said, I would love to. I don't have money. I can't get to Cape Town. And my sister said, I'll buy you a ticket. Go. I went to Cape Town. On the way to the airport, I smoked thick. When I got into the plane, I said, Lord, you need to help me. I don't want to do this anymore. And now it's been almost 6 years later. And God has radically transformed my life. I haven't had a craving to smoke thick ever since. I'm coming out of 15 years of hardcore thick addiction. What I've realized in my cycles all the time is when things would go good, like I said, it would be my danger point. I didn't want to smoke because things were going bad. I wanted to smoke because I didn't know what to do with my money anymore. And I bought a Harley Davidson. I started becoming arrogant again. I got clean. I did this. I did that. It was all me. And people were feeding into that. And I was just loathing myself for that because it was all me again. And that was another high. That was just as dangerous as the drugs. People meant well. And I had a hectic accident with my motorbike. A drunk driver skipped a red robot. And my whole shoulder has been reconstructed. There's a metal plate in my leg. And I was in a wheelchair for 3 months. And as I was laying there, God started ministering to me. We know where to turn to when we're in a rut. We know where to turn to when somebody's standing with a gun in our face. Then we call on His name very easily. But once that situation we're out of danger, then we move on and we forgot all the promises that we made in that moment. And while I was laying on that bed, God started ministering to me. And He started showing me my past. He started showing me all the times I should have been dead. He started showing me all the times murderers were about to kill me, literally kill me. And he saved me from that. And he stopped that. And he spoke to me loud and clear. And he said, what else do I have to do to show you that I'm in control of your life? And that I have a plan for your life? Now, I'm getting emotional because for the first time, the love of God has filled that hole. The all-consuming love of God has just completely consumed my life. Everything just changed in my life to such a point where I had gone to the guy who sexually abused me, and I said to you, I forgive you, man. The Lord prompted me, he said, how can you love me with all your heart if you still carry bitterness for that guy? Go and forgive him. And I said to him, I forgive you for what you have done to me. I forgive you for the destructive path that you've set me on in my life. I forgive you. And I hold nothing against you. And he told me he was never upset with me. You know, even though I went there with the love of God in my heart, you know, I still went there with an expectation. I wanted some sort of sorry, or I just wanted something. I didn't get what I expected I was going to get. And he had to minister to me again and say, but it's not for him. This is for you to heal. This is for you to love me 100%. This is for you to be the light in this world. This is for you to go out and speak to people and share this experience. For I've chosen you to go through that because not everybody can. And sometimes we question God as to why am I going through that? In the book of Job, before the devil could test him, God had to give him permission. God would say, yes, you may, just don't harm him. So whatever it is that we are going through, God has allowed us to experience because we need to now go out, use that experience and encourage other people, take other people by the hand and say, listen, let me walk this journey with you. You can be set free. I'm going on 6 years clean. I got saved in 2018, but almost 2 years ago. And we need to participate. And participating doesn't mean that we need to go to church on a Sunday morning and be holy in church. Because we are the church. We are not Christians on a Sunday morning only. How do we reflect God on a Monday morning when somebody is begging at the robot? Or when somebody is cutting in before you? Are we then ambassadors of Christ? Do we still tell them that Jesus loves you? Or do we curse back and are holy again on Sunday? Because then we're missing it completely. Then we're not ambassadors of Christ. Then we're not being Christians. Still God is gracious. Still He loves us. Still He calls you His son and He calls you daughter. And we fall short every day. But the love of God is unconditional.